All right, today is June 14, 2023, and this is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public, recorded, and posted on YouTube. On the agenda today, we're going to go over the 128 planning. 128 is the next milestone for Kubernetes, and we have a number of items that SIG Storage is committed to, so we'll get status updates on those. And then if there's any other items you'd like to discuss, please feel free to add them to the agenda. Looks like there's already one item there. You can find the link to the agenda in your calendar invite. For the timeline for 128, the next upcoming milestone is the enhancement freeze. That's coming up, in fact, this Friday, this end of this week, Thursday, today for Pacific, and Friday for UTC. So what this milestone means is if you have a feature going into the 128 release, you must have the KEP approved by this date. So if you are tracking work for this 128 release in terms of a feature, please ensure that your KEP gets approved by this time. With that, let me switch over to our tracking spreadsheet and we can get status updates on the pending items. I'm going to add a new column here for today's date, which is 6/15. And we can jump right into it. I don't see Hemant on the call. Anyone have a update on recovering from resize failure?
If I remember correctly, there is no update.
Okay, I'll mark that as no update. I know the last status here was kept update in progress, so hopefully that can get in, but if not, we'll have to punt it.
I remember he said there were still some issues he need to sort out, but he need to do some testing, so take some more time. But since we're staying alpha, we are fine. We don't really have to follow the strict guideline.
Got it.
Yeah, so long as it is in the external resizer, then it could be okay.
Sorry, say that again, Jan.
Like as long as it is in the external resizer, it could be okay.
Got it. Okay, thank you, Xing and Jan, for that update. Next is issues related to assuming volumes are mount points. Anyone able to give an update on that one? Yeah, it looks like we haven't gotten an update on that for a while, so I'll mark that as no update. Next one is we're skipping it for this cycle. Then we have provision volumes from cross namespace snapshot PBC. This is continuing alpha work, so no KEP here. Any other updates for this one?
So regarding reference grant KEP, there are still some remaining issue. So therefore, reference grant KEP will not be approved in this release. So I'd like to support it to be approved in the next release. So reference grant is a preset feature.
Got it. So it sounds like there's some remaining issues, work in progress overall.
Yes, volume populator is a work in process now.
Got it. Cool. Thank you, Takafumi, for the update on that one. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay, nothing. Finish.
Sounds good. Next is CSI volume health additional metrics.
I think this is actually E2E test. So still, yeah, there was someone working with me on the E2E test, but still work in progress.
Sounds good. Cool. Thank you, Shing, for that update. Next is change block tracking. Anything new here?
I think that team is updating the cap based on the new design. And we'll try to bring it up in the next CSI community sync.
Yeah, there was a meeting on that just yesterday. And we ended up spending most of the time talking about the CSI level RPCs, and that they need to update their proposal to the CSI spec. Like the PR that's out there is old, so it needs to be revved to reflect the new design, and we need to review it. So we might have time in next week's CSI meeting, or it might be pushed to the following month.
Got it. Okay, that sounds like good progress.
Or we could do a one-off, right? That we always have that option.
Yeah,
Speed
that's right.
things up.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Shing. Next is runtime assisted mounting. We have no active owner for this one. I think at this point we should probably drop it for the cycle unless someone wants to pick this up.
I mean, it was being driven by Deep, right?
It was being driven by Deep. We haven't seen him for a while, at least definitely not in this cycle.
I mean, I would say we should drop it until Deep decides he wants to push it again, because I don't remember anyone else being interested in that feature.
Yeah,
I mean, it was an interesting feature, but
yeah, it was a very interesting feature.
It was all Deep pushing for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think what we'll say is dropped because no active owner. Cool. Next item is enable privilege containers for Windows to replace CSI proxy.
Yeah, so this is Manu here. We had a discussion with Mauricio about this. I think my understanding is that at this point, the upstream work is pretty much complete. What is outstanding is basically if any driver or provider needs to support this functionality, then they will need to implement the changes on their end. So I think we are evaluating this from our side. We are interested in doing this work, but I think it's a significant effort. So we need to think about when we can prioritize this. So I'm hoping to have an update within the next 2 to 3 weeks in terms of that effort. We do want to support it. I think it's just a question of when, not if.
So is the mode of continuing to use the proxy going to continue to be supported, or is there a way we can get rid of it eventually? Because go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that, at least within the EBS CSI driver, we are continuing to use the CSI proxy at this point because that's the existing implementation. We do want to get rid of that, but getting to the point where we get rid of that and use host process containers instead, I think that's the work that, based on at least our initial understanding, it sounds like it's not a small chunk of work. It will require a decent amount of effort, and we are not sure when we can prioritize that. So
I have the opposite perspective. Like I like the CSI proxy. I wish we had one on Linux. I think I mentioned this like a year or two ago. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with security people who look at CSI node plugins and get terrified of the fact that they're running privileged. If there was a CSI proxy on Linux, like I would encourage people to use it. First, from a security perspective, right? I think we're doing the wrong thing by moving away from the proxy.
So that's an interesting point of view. I hadn't heard that one before. I can tell you from our perspective, when we use the CSI proxy, it just seemed like there were a bunch of fairly, I don't know what the right word is, but not ideal / hacky things that we had to do in order to get the CSI proxy to do all the things that should be possible to do. And so, at least just from a code modularity perspective, we would be happy to move away from that. I mean, if there are security concerns, I don't really know much about that at this point to be able to comment knowledgeably on that. But I think at least based on what I understood, it seemed like it would be a good thing for us to move away from using the CSI proxy. And we thought that, the whole point of having this feature on Windows was that, it would allow us to do that. So that's why we are interested in doing it.
Yeah, the basic issue is that Kubernetes security people don't like privileged pods. And the only way to not have your node plugin be privileged would be to have something else be privileged, like the proxy. And then if you have to decide between some community maintained open source component being privileged versus some closed source vendor proprietary thing being privileged, you would always choose the open source community maintained thing, right? Because it's easier to find bugs, it's easier to fix bugs, it's easier to do testing. So
that makes sense to me, but I think at this point, isn't this a GA feature within Kubernetes? And I thought,
yes,
and I thought that Azure and maybe I think Google also both support this. Is that accurate?
The Windows privileged containers?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, privileged containers are valuable for other reasons, right? But I think that there should be an option to continue using the proxy. And I wish we had a proxy on Linux so that you could have unprivileged CSI plugins, because I think that would be a step forward for security. I lost that argument when I made it last time, because there's significant effort to build and maintain that proxy. And no one, I guess, is sufficiently incentivized to do that work. But right. I want to keep reminding people that there is a security concern here. And I think that the proxy is fundamentally safer in terms of securing your Kubernetes cluster from malicious attackers doing bad things.
Got it. Ben, I think I'll probably talk to you in more detail to get more context on this. If you feel strongly about this, and if you feel that it makes sense to have something like this on Linux, then maybe we should talk about it a little bit more to see if that's a direction that the community might be interested in. So,
sure.
But yeah, I think at least for the foreseeable future, we will still try to implement this capability within the AWS EBS CSI driver, and then we'll, like I said, it's just a question of finding the resources to do it. So
awesome. Thanks a lot for the update there and the progress, Manu, and thanks for raising the concern, Ben. I think it's worth continuing that discussion. Moving on to the next item, SE Linux relabeling using mount options, CSI driver API changes, beta on by default again. So this remains in beta. And
well, there is no update since the last time. Okay. I have CI jobs, I did everything. I just need the PR reviewed.
Got it. No problem. Thanks for the update, Jan. Next is CSI migration, remove entry GCE. PR out for review as the last status. Do we have Matt? Doesn't look like it. I'm going to mark this as no update unless someone has an update. Okay, next is VMware vSphere removing entry. This is tracking for 130. Same for Azure, that's for 130. So we'll ignore those. Then CSI migration. Ceph RBD, Kepis for RBD, beta off by default, end-to-end tests. Any update on this one?
So Humble has submitted a PR to deprecate this entry plugin. he sent the email on the mailing list. No one says they are still using the entry one, so he is trying to deprecate this.
Great. Cool. Thank you for that update, Shing. And so yeah, I guess heads up for folks, Ceph RBD is being deprecated rather than moved to CSI. So if that is a concern to you, please speak out. Ceph FS, I assume similar situation.
Yeah, the PR is already merged.
Got it. PR for deprecation, right?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you for the update, Shing. And again, reminder for anybody using Ceph, the entry plugin will get deprecated unless you speak up. Okay, next item is always honor reclaim policy. We have Deepak. Any updates on this one? It looks like we were looking for volunteers.
So yeah, if there is no volunteers, then I have asked Deepak to look at this one when he freed up.
Got
But
it.
I will give an update and see when he started to look into this.
Do we want to keep tracking this for this cycle or?
I think no, not the cycle.
Okay,
Too late for the cycle.
got it. So let me go ahead and drop it for this cycle and then we can reintroduce it as needed.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Shing. Next is better default storage classes. Go ahead.
I think it passed all the reviews and PR review, and it's ready to be GA.
Past the KEP review and PRs in progress is, I think, what I heard.
PRR review passed.
VRR. Yeah, PRR review is in progress or
It's done.
done. Got it.
Everything is ready for GA.
Awesome. Thank you, Jan, for the update. Next, we have quality of service for volumes. So Sunny and Matt. I think the latest status here is that they have a KEP is ready for review, and CSI spec changes are also in review. I think there was an offline discussion on order of operations because KEP deadline is this week, and it looks like CSI spec changes won't be merged until then. So I think we agreed that the KEP will get merged and CSI spec changes will continue, hopefully getting merged soon. If CSI changes are not able to be merged in time, we will effectively block the KEP and punt it to the next cycle.
Got it. One quick question about this. So I think the last discussion that I was part of, it sounded like we were going to go with the opaque parameter approach. I'm assuming that I haven't had a chance to review the latest version, but I'm assuming that that's what we are going with.
Yes.
Okay, great. So the only question that I have is, once we have approval on the CSI changes and the KEP is officially approved, what's the next step? Do we start with the implementation at that point, or is there anything else that needs to happen?
Yeah, so we would try to target an alpha implementation for this 128 release. So any changes that we need for the Kubernetes side would go into that 128 release.
Got it. And then if there are specific things that we want to discuss about the implementation, those can still be brought up as part of the subsequent meetings here. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, you can bring them up in subsequent meetings. You can even bring them up in the KEP now if you just want to open up discussion, or on the PRs themselves for implementation. Any of those forums would be okay.
Sounds good. Makes sense. Thank you.
I was also going to say, you don't have to wait for the KEP to be approved or the CSI spec change to merge to start work on implementation, sometimes issues are found by doing your prototype implementation, and then you discover something important that was left out of the design. So
yeah, makes sense. I do have one thing that I want to bring up about that, but it can wait until later. I don't think we need to spend time talking about it right now. So
sounds good. All right, thanks. Next, we are going to talk about robust volume manager reconstruction. This is remaining in beta for this cycle.
That's the same as Linux, basically.
Good. Okay, then we have PV last phase transition time. CAP needs update. Anything
It's merged. PRR is done.
Nice.
What is this one?
We want to have in PV status a timestamp when the phase was changed last time. So when it goes from, I don't know, bound to release, we want to have a timestamp of this event.
Okay. So we're not talking about the end of a life. We're talking about just when the phase changed, capturing the timestamp. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Jan, for that update. Next item is volume expansion for stateful sets. This would be designed for this cycle. Looks like last status update, the design was in progress and needed some answers from SIG apps. Anyone have an update on this one? Okay, I'll mark that as no update for this cycle. Next, we have non-graceful node shutdown. Anything new on this one?
Yeah, the CAP is merged.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you for driving this, Shing.
Wait, this feature is already in beta, isn't it? Or is this a different
Yeah,
thing?
it was, yeah, right now we are trying to move it to GA now. So we just need to add some E2E tests, basically. Yeah, more E2E tests.
So it's going to go GA in this release?
Correct.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Thank you both. Next is storage capacity scoring. Anything new on that one?
So they don't want to go target alpha in 1.28, but there is a cap there. Yeah, the cap itself is ready for review.
Got it. Okay, so we'll keep that in design for this cycle. And anybody interested, please help with reviewing that cap. With that, I think we're done with reviewing the status of the items for 128. Going back to our agenda doc, looks like we have a couple of items for discussion. First is this issue from, I believe it was Anish who added this. Anish, are you on the call to discuss?
Hey, yeah. My name is Anish. I'm actually the maintainer for Secret Code CSI driver, which is a SIG auth sub-project that enables getting secrets that's stored in external secret store, and then we use the driver to mount it in the pod volume. One of the issues that we recently encountered was we log the RPC requests as part of the incoming and then the outgoing response as well. And we also use the proto sanitizer that's offered in the CSI lib utils. And recently we started using these token request fields, right? Which was added in CSI. And then initially it was added because they saw that in our CSI providers, we were generating the token, and then it made more sense to add that as part of the CSI spec and all of that, right? Recently what we saw was these S8 or service account tokens are part of the volume context and not part of the secrets field. And this volume context field is not really marked as a secret, which means proto sanitizer does not really sanitize anything that's there in that map. And because of that, if someone enabled like higher logging in ours, like the service account tokens were being logged, and we had a CVE for that, and we fixed it. I also looked up across like other CSI drivers, and there are like a bunch of other CSI drivers which use this token request fields. So it is possible they could run into this issue if they are just logging the volume context field at some point without knowing
Well,
what.
hold on. The volume context is also stored in the PV, right?
It is, yes.
So like, and that's not encrypted, and that's like, that seems like a bigger hole than the fact that it might get logged in a log. It's the fact that it's just there unencrypted in the PV, visible to anyone who has PV read access.
That's right.
So like, maybe these things shouldn't be in the volume context is what I'm saying. Like,
So that's exactly what I opened the issue for.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was saying, so there is another field called like secrets field. Like maybe that is a better candidate because that is used today for like node publish secret reference. Or like if there's a different way, but I do agree that like this shouldn't be part of the volume context because I think the list, it's just a map and it keeps growing as we add newer fields, and then like users who consume it don't really know what is part of it, so they just end up logging it.
Yeah, it should be safe to log the volume context because there shouldn't be anything sensitive in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that if there's a fix that involves not using the volume context and using some secret instead, that would be preferable.
Right. So given that this change has already been there, if we have to modify this, I think we have to do it in like a backward compatible way and maybe across a couple of releases. But I open this issue to start a discussion, and then maybe we can follow up on Slack or something to see how we want to do it, and I can help lead the effort.
So Anish, I want to make sure I understand the change that you're hoping to see. Is this mostly an FYI to driver owners to modify their drivers and not use volume context for sensitive information, or what were you hoping for something else?
So the service account tokens are added to the volume context from the kubelet code, right? Like, so basically when the kubelet calls the CSI driver to say, hey, mount this volume for me, it sends the service account tokens as part of that volume context. So the change would need to be in kubelet so that we don't use volume context for like secrets and these kind of fields, but rather have like a dedicated field.
Got it.
And we already have a dedicated field in the proto, which is called secrets today, which is used for like credentials that's stored as a Kubernetes secret.
That makes sense.
But the way that field gets populated is already specified in the Kubernetes CSI glue layer, right? Where we have these objects that get created, depending on the definition of the storage class, like PVs that get instantiated from the storage class have certain secret names that get set, and then that's where it goes and looks for this. That's where like kubelet will go look for the secrets to read out and then shove into that particular field of the RPC for that CSI driver. I don't know if you can overload that with like some special other source of secrets, because we already know where the contents of that field is supposed to come from. I know that this is not a regular CSI driver, right? This is like an ephemeral volume driver.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that changes the rules. I've never written one of those before. I don't know if like the logic in kubelet is different, but I just want to caution you and say that kubelet already knows how to get the contents of that field set, and we might not be able to just change it, right? You might have to actually create the secret and then let kubelet read the secret and send it through the RPC the way that it expects to.
Yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily have to use that field. Like I understand that, right? Like that field was added for specifically the node publish secret reference, and that makes sense. We don't have to use that field. Like we probably need a different field just so that like things like tokens and all of these, which are high privileged, like don't get included as part of like a normal volume context.
Yeah, so to make sure I understand both of your concerns, I think what Ben is saying is like it may be non-trivial, and I think Anish, you mentioned the same thing, which is like we'll have to figure out backwards compatibility if we make this change.
That's right.
This is a fundamentally hard problem, moving secrets around on the CSI layer. I've never been thrilled with the mechanism we have, but if it can be used, then obviously that's the easiest path forward. If it can't be, we should consider doing something better, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, this makes sense. And to clarify, so this applies really only to Kubernetes ephemeral volumes.
That's right.
Got it.
Yeah, so this token request field, I don't know if it's only ephemeral, because in the CSI driver spec, there is a token request field. And I think you can configure that even if it is not ephemeral, right?
Does anyone know off the top of their head? See if I can dig up some docs. You can continue the discussion.
So this is the specific field I'm referring to. So I think if you configure the audience here, you could do that for any volume.
Got it. Does anyone have background on this token request field? Okay, I think definitely this needs to be fixed. Thank you, Anish, for highlighting that. Are you interested in helping drive the fix for it, or this is more of a call out for?
Yeah, I can help with the fix.
Awesome. Okay. Please feel free to come back to this group at any point if you need additional call outs, discussions, anything like that. And otherwise, I think this is a high priority to fix. I'll actually go ahead and add it to our 128 tracking sheet as something we need to fix. Thank you for flagging this.
Yeah.
Quick question for Anish. Anish, do you think this is something that will impact storage drivers in general, or is it something that's more specific towards the ephemeral drivers, or the drivers for ephemeral volumes?
I mean, so at least now I looked at a couple of drivers, right? So I think CSI driver, Spiffy, which is part of Cert Manager, is using it. And then Democratic CSI, like they use this in their driver. And then I also saw GCE Fuse CSI driver uses token requests. So there are like a bunch of drivers that use it so that they can use that service account token to exchange it. So I think the primary use case is they use the service account token for workload identity. So they exchange it for a cloud provider access token, and then like they could use it. They mostly use it for ephemeral volumes, but also for like attaching disks, maybe. So we need to see who all is using it right now, and yeah.
Got it.
But the part that overlaps with all CSI drivers is everyone should be aware that volume context and publish context are stored unencrypted in Kubernetes objects. And so like it's not an appropriate place to put sensitive information.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, this is a good call out. Thank you, Anish, for helping with the fix here. All right, next item is from Ben, eliminating Windows proxy. Oh, we just discussed this. I was taking notes here so we can track for the future. Yeah, let's continue the discussion offline on this one. Any other items for discussion today before we go?
I had a quick question about an old issue that folks recently reported against AWS that we think is surfacing here. I just posted a link for that in the chat window. We have somebody reporting this behavior against this AWS EBS CSI driver. We think this is the issue, and looking at this issue, I'm not sure if there was any resolution on this ever. And I was curious if anybody else from the thread, it seems like folks have reported this in the past, but not recently. And I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts about what the long-term fix should be and who should own that. it seems like there's a race condition here that that is driving, and I think there was a comment from Michelle further down in the TT about that. So
Ian, do you remember anything about this one?
it's been around for a while, so the fact that it doesn't have a fix means that it's likely not a straightforward issue to address. Yeah, I think this was a comment.
Wait, when we say
I thought we had a fix. We added a finalizer to make sure the order is correct, but I need to find that. I thought that we already have some fix, but I'm not sure if it's the complete fix. But I know we did something regarding this ordering.
Got it. If you could share
Shing,
some more details.
Are you saying?
I think we have something.
That, like,
we added some finalizer,
finalizer?
trying to synchronize it. Yeah, I need to find the. Okay, let's see.
This is a finalizer on the node, so it can't go away until the volume attachments go away?
I think there was a fix in maybe in the attacher or something. I need to find out. I need to remember there's something done about this.
Yeah.
I need to check.
If you could share that, Shing, as you know, maybe through Slack or something, I think that would be really helpful. We're just trying to understand if this is something that is there as part of the upstream code, and if so, you know, what the right fix should be.
So you're saying you still see this problem?
Somebody is seeing this problem, yeah, and
okay.
And we looked into it, and I mean, we don't know for sure if it is exactly this issue, but the symptoms seem to match up, and our current theory is that this is what they're hitting. So we need to confirm that. But if in the meanwhile, you know, if we can get more details around what was done to fix this, I think that would be helpful. So
do you know what was causing the node deletion in the case you're referring to?
I can probably get more details on that, yeah, if necessary.
I mean, node deletion is an unusual thing to do. So I wonder, like, what were the other circumstances around it, right? There's a few reasons you might have for deleting a node, and some of them are dangerous. So
yeah,
it would be good to know what the intent was.
Yeah, I can definitely provide those details. Give me 1 second. Actually, you know what? I think yeah, go ahead.
I found a fix. This is in the external provisioner. Basically, it prevents delete volume on CSS plugin for volumes that are still attached to your node. So let me add it here.
But that's a different issue, right? That's the volume can't get deleted while it's attached. This is the node is getting deleted while it's attached, and so it might need a similar kind of fix.
Okay.
Yeah, I can probably share on the Slack channel.
No,
some more
okay,
details.
I see. Yeah, it's not the same.
But because node deletion is much less common than volume deletion, that is probably why it's gone unsolved for so long. And we could probably use a similar approach to what we did for volume deletion to protect against node deletion. But we would want to understand, I think, why the why of the node deletion, so that we don't break something.
Yeah, let me share some more details about the exact scenario. I'll reach out via Slack on the Slack channel. So
Okay, so I think let's continue the discussion on this offline. And anything new that we learn, let's add it back to the original bug. Whether it's ways we could potentially fix this, or some other fix that may have partially addressed this, just to keep the bug updated.
Yeah, we're trying to confirm if this is really the issue that we are hitting. So
Got
once
it.
we have more details, we can update the issue. So,
Okay, sounds good. All right, any other topics for discussion today, folks? All right, we'll call it. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
thank
Bye.
you.